Welcome everybody, welcome in. We are excited to do this live cast right now. The presidential debate. This is either going to be great or an absolute hot mess. I'm pretty sure this is going to be a hot mess, but we'll see how this goes. You're listening to Logic and Reason.
My imperative is to bring peace and order to this world. I am about to fulfill that imperative.
Alright, so we are in this debate right now. It hasn't started yet. We're about a couple of minutes in, maybe 2 more minutes. We will be joined by Mel pretty soon. She's taking care of the little one right now. But how are you guys doing? How are we feeling as far as this debate? Can't say I'm looking forward to it. These are two characters. I mean, for most people I talk to, most people say that this was not something that they wanted. Right? This wasn't, I think, what anybody wanted for that matter. And so, you know, Joe Biden, as nicknamed Sleepy Joe, Donald Trump, nicknamed Donald Convict Trump. There's a lot of different storylines here. You know, Joe's too old, even though there's only a 3-year difference between these two. The other one is, you know, Trump's going to jail. How is that going to work? I'm curious to know what the talking points are going to be. Are they going to talk about Project 2025? That's going to be an interesting subject. Looks like we're about to get started pretty soon. About maybe a minute left before we're about to get started.
We're live from Georgia, a key battleground state in the race for the White House. In just moments, the current U.S. president will debate the former U.S. president as their party's presumptive nominees, a first in American history. We want to welcome our viewers in the United States and around the world to our studios in Atlanta. This is the CNN presidential debate.
This debate is being produced by CNN and is coming to you live on CNN, CNN International, CNN.com, CNN Max, and CNN Espanol. This is a pivotal moment between President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump in their rematch for the nation's highest office. Each will make his case to the American people with just over 4 months until Election Day. Good evening, I'm Dana Bash, anchor of CNN's Inside Politics and co-anchor of State of the Union.
I'm Jake Tapper, anchor of CNN's The Lead and co-anchor of State of the Union. Dana and I will co-moderate this evening. Our job is to facilitate a debate between the two candidates tonight. Before we introduce them, we want to share the rules of the debate with the audience at home. Former President Trump will be on the left side of the screen. President Biden will be appearing on the right. A coin toss
it'll be interesting to finally see
their
them
positions.
debate.
Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer a question and 1 minute each for responses and rebuttals. An additional minute for follow-up, clarification, or response is at the moderator's discretion.
When it's time for a candidate to speak, his microphone will be turned on and his opponent's microphone will be turned off. Should a candidate interrupt when his microphone is muted, he will be difficult to understand for viewers at home.
I know usually you can't
control it. At the end of the debate, each candidate will get 2 minutes for closing statements. There is no studio audience tonight. Pre-written notes, props, or contact with campaign staff are not permitted during the debate. By accepting our invitation to debate, both candidates and their campaigns agreed to accept these rules.
Now, please welcome the 46th President of the United States, Joe Biden.
Folks, how are you? Good to be here. Thank you.
You guys game face on.
And please welcome the 45th President of the United States, Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Very confident coming out the gate.
Give me 1 moment.
Gentlemen, thanks so much for being here. Let's begin the debate, and let's start with the issue that voters consistently say is their top concern, the economy. President Biden, inflation has slowed, but prices remain high. Since you took office, the price of essentials has increased. For example, a basket of groceries that cost $100 then now costs more than $120. And typical home prices have jumped more than 30%. What do you say to voters who feel they are worse off under your presidency than they were under President Trump?
We got to take a look at what I was left when I became president, what Mr. Trump left me. We had an economy that was in free fall. The pandemic was so badly handled. Many people were dying. All he said was, it's not that serious. Just inject a little bleach into your arm. You'll be all right. The economy collapsed. There were no jobs. Unemployment rate rose to 15%. It was terrible. And so what we had to do is try to put things back together again. And that's exactly what we began to do. We created 15,000 new jobs. We brought out the position where we have 800,000 new manufacturing jobs. But there's more to be done. There's more to be done. Working class people are still in trouble. I come from Scranton, Pennsylvania. I come of a household where the kitchen table, if the things weren't able to be met during the month, it was a problem. Price of eggs, the price of gas, the price of housing, the price of a whole range of things. That's why I'm working so hard to make sure I deal with those problems. And we're going to make sure that we reduce the price of housing. We're going to make sure we build 2 million new units. We're going to make sure we cap rents so corporate greed can't take over. The combination, what I was left with in corporate greed, is the reason why we're in this problem right now. In addition to that, we're in a situation where if you take a look at all that was done in his administration, he didn't do much at all. By the time he left, things were in chaos, literally chaos. And so we put things back together. We created, I said, those jobs. We make sure we had a situation where we brought down the price of prescription drugs, which is a major issue for many people, to $15 for an insulin shot as opposed to $400. No senior has to pay more than $200 for any drug, all the drugs they can include beginning next year. And the situation is and we're going to make that available to everybody, to all Americans. So we're working to bring down the price around the kitchen table, and that's what we're going to get done.
Thank you. President Trump?
We had the greatest economy in the history of our country. We have never done so well. Everybody was amazed by it. Other countries were copying us. We got hit with COVID, and when we did, we spent the money necessary so we wouldn't end up in a Great Depression, the likes of which we had in 1929. By the time we finished, so we did a great job. We got a lot of credit for the economy, a lot of credit for the military, and no wars, and so many other things. Everything was rocking good. But the thing we never got the credit for, and we should have, is getting us out of that COVID mess. He created mandates that was a disaster for our country. But other than that, we had given them back a country where the stock market actually was higher than pre-COVID, and nobody thought that was even possible. The only jobs he created are for illegal immigrants and bounce-back jobs, a bounce-back from the COVID. He has not done a good job. He's done a poor job, and inflation's killing our country. It is absolutely killing us.
Thank you. President Biden?
Well, look, the greatest economy in the world, he's the only one who thinks that, I think. I don't know anybody else who thinks he had the greatest economy in the world. And, you know, the fact of the matter is that we found ourselves in a situation where his economy, he rewarded the wealthy. He had the largest tax cut in American history, $2 trillion. He raised a deficit larger than any president has in any one term. He's the only president other than Herbert Hoover who's lost more jobs than he had when he began, since Herbert Hoover. The idea that he did something that was significant. And the military, you know, when he was president, they were still killing people in Afghanistan. He didn't do anything about that. When he was president, we were still finding ourselves in a position where you had a notion that we were this safe country. The truth is, I'm the only president this century that doesn't have this decade, that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world like he did.
President Trump, I want to follow up if I can.
Am I allowed to respond to him?
Well, I'm going to ask you a follow-up. You can do whatever you want with the minute that we give you. I want to follow up. You want to impose a 10% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S. How will you ensure that that doesn't drive prices even higher?
It's not going to drive them higher. It's just going to cost countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China and many others, in all fairness to China. It's going to just force them to pay us a lot of money, reduce our deficit tremendously, and give us a lot of power for other things. But he made a statement. The only thing he was right about is I gave you the largest tax cut in history. I also gave you the largest regulation cut in history. That's why we had all the jobs. And the jobs went down, and then they bounced back, and he's taking credit for bounce-back jobs. You can't do that. He also said he inherited 9% inflation. Now, He inherited almost no inflation, and it stayed that way for 14 months. And then it blew up under his leadership because they spent money like a bunch of people that didn't know what they were doing, and they don't know what they were doing. It was the worst, probably the worst administration in history. There's never been. And as far as Afghanistan is concerned, I was getting out of Afghanistan, but we were getting out with dignity, with strength, with power. He got out. It was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country's life.
President Trump, over the last 8 years, under both of your administrations, the national debt soared to record highs. And according to a new nonpartisan analysis, President Trump, your administration approved $8.4 trillion in new debt, while so far, President Biden, you've approved $4.3 trillion in new debt. So, former President Trump, many of the tax cuts that you signed into law are set to expire next year. You want to extend them and go even further, you say. With the U.S. facing trillion-dollar deficits and record debt, why should top earners and corporations pay even less in taxes than they do now?
Because the tax cuts spurred the greatest economy that we've ever seen just prior to COVID. And even after COVID, it was so strong that we were able to get through COVID much better than just about any other country. But we spurred, that tax spurred. Now, when we cut the taxes, as an example, the corporate tax was cut down to 21% from 39%, plus beyond that. We took in more revenue with much less tax, and companies were bringing back trillions of dollars back into our country. The country was going like never before, and we were ready to start paying down debt. We were ready to start using the liquid gold right under our feet, the oil and gas right under our feet. We were going to have something that nobody else has had. We got hit with COVID. We did a lot to fix it. I gave him an unbelievable situation with all of the therapeutics and all of the things that we came up with. We gave him something great. Remember, more people died under his administration, even though we had largely fixed it. More people died under his administration than our administration, and we were right in the middle of it, something which a lot of people don't like to talk about. But he had far more people dying in his administration. He did the mandate, which is a disaster, mandating it. The vaccine went out. He did a mandate on the vaccine, which is the thing that people most objected to about the vaccine. And he did a very poor job, just a very poor job. And I will tell you, not only poor there, but throughout the entire world, we're no longer respected as a country. They don't respect our leadership. They don't respect the United States anymore. We're like a third world nation between weaponization of his election, trying to go after his political opponent, all of the things he's done. We've become like a third world nation, and it's a shame. The damage he's done to our country. And I'd love to ask him, and will, why he allowed millions of people to come in here from prisons, jails, and mental institutions to come into our country and destroy our country.
President Trump, we will get to immigration later in this block. President Biden, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to this question about the national debt.
He had the largest national debt of any president in a 4-year period, number one. Number two, that $2 trillion tax cut benefited the very wealthy. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. Billionaires in America. And what's happening? They're in a situation where they, in fact, pay 8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24%, 25%, either one of those numbers, they'd raise $500 million, billion dollars, I should say, in a 10-year period. We'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our health care system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID, with dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because all of these people are coming in. They're putting them on Medicare. They're putting them on Social Security. They're going to destroy Social Security. This man is going to single-handedly destroy Social Security. These millions and millions of people coming in, they're trying to put them on Social Security. He will wipe out Social Security. He will wipe out Medicare. So he was right in the way he finished that sentence. And it's a shame. What's happened to our country in the last 4 years is not to be believed. Foreign countries, I'm friends with a lot of people, they cannot believe what happened to the United States of America. We're no longer respected. They don't like us. We give them everything they want, and they think we're stupid. They think we're very stupid people. what we're doing for other countries, and they do nothing for us. What this man has done is absolutely criminal.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
This is the first presidential election since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. This morning, the court ruled on yet another abortion case, temporarily allowing emergency abortions to continue in Idaho, despite that state's restrictive ban. Former President Trump, you take credit for the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, which returned the issue of abortion to the states.
Correct.
However, the federal government still plays a role in whether or not women have access to abortion pills. They're used in about 2/3 of all abortions. As president, would you block abortion medication?
First of all, the Supreme Court just approved the abortion bill, and I agree with their decision to have done that, and I will not block it. And if you look at this whole question that you're asking, complex but not really complex. 51 years ago, you had Roe v. Wade, and everybody wanted to get it back to the states. Everybody, without exception. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives. Everybody wanted it back. Religious leaders. And what I did is I put 3 great Supreme Court justices on the court, and they happened to vote in favor of killing Roe v. Wade and moving it back to the states. This is something that everybody wanted. Now, 10 years ago or so, they started talking about how many weeks and how many this, getting into other things. But every legal scholar throughout the world, the most respected, wanted it brought back to the states. I did that. Now the states are working it out. If you look at Ohio, it was a decision that was an end result that was a little bit more liberal than you would have thought. Kansas, I would say the same thing. Texas is different. Florida is different. But they're all making their own decisions right now. And right now, the states control it. That's the vote of the people. Like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions. I am a person that believes. And frankly, I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that. But I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think it's very important. Some people don't. Follow your heart. But you have to get elected also. And because that has to do with other things. You got to get elected. The problem they have is they're radical because they will take the life of a child in the 8th month, the 9th month, and even after birth. After birth, if you look at the former governor of Virginia, he was willing to do this. He said, we'll put the baby aside and we'll determine what we do with the baby, meaning we'll kill the baby. What happened is we brought it back to the states, and the country is now coming together on this issue. It's been a great thing.
Thank you. President Biden?
It's been a terrible thing, what you've done. The fact is that the vast majority of constitutional scholars supported Roe when it was decided, supported Roe. And that's this idea that they're all against it is just ridiculous. And this is the guy who says the state should be able to have it. We're in a state where in 6 weeks, you don't even know whether you're pregnant or not, but you cannot see a doctor and have him decide on what your circumstances are, whether you need help. The idea that states are able to do this is a little like saying we're going to turn civil rights back to the states. Let each state have a different rule. Look, there's so many young women who have been, including a young woman who just...
Sorry about that, guys. I thought I was talking to you.
And he went to the
I said all this
funeral.
stuff. My mic wasn't even on.
She was murdered by an immigrant coming in.
Geez.
They talked
Live
about
show.
that. But here's the deal.
About 20 minutes
There's a
in.
lot of young women are being raped by their in-laws, by their spouses.
What I was saying earlier
brothers
is
and
his whole
sisters,
argument is not
by-
against abortion. His
it's
whole
just-
argument
it's just
is
ridiculous.
to push it to
And
the
they
states.
can do nothing about it.
To not make it
and
a
they try
federal
to arrest
thing.
them when they cross state lines.
Thank you.
There have been many
To vote
young women
when you
murdered by the same people he allows to come across our border. We have a border that's the most dangerous place anywhere in the world. Consider the most dangerous place anywhere in the world.
Since you guys
And
didn't
he
hear earlier,
opened it
I did
up,
give a
and
shout
these
out to
killers
Broken
are coming
Traditions.
into our country, and they are
He made a
raping
nice
and
little,
killing women.
comment.
And it's a terrible thing. As far as the abortion is
him.
concerned, it is now back with the states. The states are voting. In many cases, it's frankly a very liberal decision. In many cases, it's the opposite. But they're voting, and it's bringing it back to the vote of the people, which is what everybody wanted, including the founders, if they knew about this issue, which, frankly, they didn't. But they would have. Everybody wanted it brought back. Ronald Reagan wanted it brought back. He wasn't able to get it.
Honestly, this
Everybody
idea is not
wanted
bad.
It brought back,
You
and
know, having
many
it go to the
presidents had
states,
tried to get it back.
and in that way,
I was
you
the
know,
one to
for
do
those
it.
who are
And
in a
again, this
more
gives it the
conservative
vote of
state,
the people,
it
and
would have
that's
to
where they
challenge
wanted
your
it. Every
decisions
legal
on where you want to
scholar
live.
wanted it that way.
Staying on the topic of abortion, President Biden, 7 states, I'll let you do that. This is the same topic. 7 states have no legal restrictions
I know, man. It was
on how far into a pregnancy a woman can obtain
I'm
an
going to
abortion.
blame that on the baby.
Do you support any
baby brain.
legal limits on how
They
late a
gonna be
woman
mute on
should
my
be able
child.
to terminate a pregnancy?
I supported Roe v. Wade,
man.
which had 3 trimesters. The first time is between the woman and the doctor. Second time is between the doctor and an extreme situation. The third time is between the doctor, between the woman and the state. The idea that the politicians, that the founders wanted the politicians to be the ones making decisions about women's health is ridiculous. That's the last. No politician should be making that decision. A doctor should be making those
You
decisions.
are. You're a politician.
That's how it should be run.
You would be making that decision.
That's what you're going to do.
What is he talking about?
And if I'm elected, I'm going to restore
He's the
Roe
very
v.
person
Wade.
you're talking about.
So that means he can take the life of the baby in the 9th month.
He's a politician.
And even after birth.
And he's always
because
saying is
some
vote.
states,
You vote
Democrat
politicians
run,
out of office.
Take it after birth. Again, the former governor of Virginia, put the baby down, then we decide what to do with it. So he's willing to, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby. Nobody wants that to happen, Democrat or Republican. Nobody wants it to happen.
That is
He
simply
needs
not
to stick
true.
with his original argument,
The
though.
Roe
I think
v.
he's
Wade
messing
does
up
not
right now.
provide
Trump.
for that. That's
Stay
not
with
the
the state thing.
circumstance.
Don't
Only
start
woman's
going
life is in
into
danger.
what's
She's
right
going
or
to
wrong
die.
on it, 'cause it's
That's
not-
the only
that's not really
circumstance where
important
that
here.
can
The
happen.
important thing is,
but we
what
are
do you
not
believe is
for
federal or do you
late-term
believe is
abortion,
state?
Period.
Under Roe v. Wade, you have late-term abortion. You can do whatever you want, depending on the state. You can do whatever you want. We don't think that's a good
I'm
thing.
going to
We
ask you
think
guys
it's
a
a
question,
radical
though.
thing.
What's the point
We
of
think
having
the
a late-term
Democrats are the
abortion if
radicals,
that's actually
not the
true? Because
Republicans.
you went
For
through the whole
51
process
years,
of
that was
pregnancy.
the law. 51
You just
years,
finish it
constitutional
out?
scholarship said it was the right way to go.
Or give your baby
51
to
years,
adoption?
and it was taken away because this guy put very conservative members on the Supreme Court. He takes credit for taking it away. What's he going to do? What's he going to do, in fact, if the MAGA Republicans, he gets elected, and the MAGA Republicans control the Congress, and they pass a universal ban on abortion, period, across the board.
not advocating
at
for that,
6 weeks or 7 or 8 or 10 weeks, something very, very conservative. Is he going to sign that bill? I'll veto it. He'll sign it.
Thank you.
Let's turn now to the issue of immigration and border security. President Biden, a record number of migrants have illegally crossed the southern border on your watch. Overwhelming border states and overburdening cities such as New York and Chicago, and in some cases causing real safety and security concerns. Given that, why should voters trust you to solve this crisis?
Because we worked very hard to get a bipartisan agreement that not only changed all of that, it made sure that we are in a situation where you had no circumstance where they could come across the border with the
Brogan, is that
number
better?
of border police there are now. We
Should be able to hear me
significantly
now.
increased the number of asylum officers. Significantly, by the way, the Border Patrol endorsed my position. In addition to that, we found ourselves in a situation where, when he was
Agro
president, he was
Republicans
separating
goes
babies
with the buzz.
from their
Yeah,
mothers,
it's a
putting them in
buzzword.
cages, making sure the families were separated. That's not the right way to go. What I've done since I've changed the law, what's happened? I've changed it in a way that now we're in a
Immigration, that's what I'm here
situation
for.
where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. That's better than when he left office. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
Yeah, but you've
I
let
really
more
don't know
people
what
in.
he said at the end of that
That
sentence.
didn't make any
I
sense.
don't think he knows what he said either. Look,
That's
we have
what I was
the
like, what he
safest
said
border
didn't
in
make
the
any
history of
sense.
our country.
Okay.
The border, all he had to do was leave it. All he had to do was leave it. He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people that are from prisons, people
They're
that
bringing
are
guns,
from
they're
mental
bringing
institutions,
drugs.
insane asylums.
I guess some of them are good
terrorists.
people.
We have the largest number of terrorists coming into our country right now, all terrorists, all over the world, not just in South America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere. All over the world, they're pouring in. And this guy just left it open.
Oh, he's already
And he
doing
didn't
it.
need
But
legislation.
the
because I
beginning
didn't have
started bad
legislation. I said,
for
close
Biden.
the border.
He's
We
not-
have the
he's not doing too good
safest
right now.
border in history. In that final couple of months of my presidency, we had, according to Border Patrol, who is great, and by the way, who endorsed me for president, but I won't say that, but they endorsed me for president. Brandon, just speak to him. But
Brandon?
look, we had the safest border in history. Now we have the worst border
Oh,
in history.
man.
There's never been anything like it. And people are dying all over the place, including the people that are coming up in
Thank you,
caravans.
President Trump. President Biden?
The only
That's in reference to
terrorist
Houston
who
just had an
did
issue
anything
right now.
across The border
A
is one who
12-year-old
came
girl.
along and killed 3 under his administration. Killed an Al Qaeda person come in his administration.
What are you trying to say?
Kill 3 American
What are you
soldiers.
saying?
Killed 3 American soldiers. That's the only terrorist that's there. I'm not saying that no terrorist ever got through, but the idea they're emptying their prisons, we're welcoming these people, that's simply not true. There's no data to support what he said. Once again, he's exaggerating, he's lying.
President Trump, staying on the topic of immigration, you've said that you're going to carry out, quote, the largest domestic deportation operation in American history, unquote. Does that mean that you will deport every undocumented immigrant in America, including those who have jobs, including those whose spouses are citizens, and including those who have lived here for decades? And if so, how will you do it?
Just 1 second. He said we killed 3 people. The people we killed
Let's go, Brandon.
al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, the 2 greatest terrorists, biggest terrorists anywhere in the world. And it had a huge impact on everything, not just border, on everything.
Yes.
He's the one that killed people
Very
with
true.
the bad water, including hundreds of thousands of people dying, and also killing our citizens when they come in. We are living right now in a rat's nest. They're killing our people in New York, in California, in every state in the union, because we don't have borders anymore. Every state is now a border. And because of his ridiculous, insane, and very stupid policies,
I think they're going to bring up Hunter
people are coming in and they're killing our
that's
citizens.
such an easy
at a level
play.
that we've
I mean,
never seen. We call it
he needs to be
migrant
strategic
crime.
about it, though.
I call it Biden migrant crime.
Because if you
They're
bring up
killing our
Hunter, he's
citizens
going
at a
to bring
level
up
that
your
we've
hearing.
never
So
seen before.
you got to be
and
strategic
you're
about
reading it like these 3 incredible young girls over the last few days. One of them, I just spoke to the mother, and he
Get
just
these
had
likes
the
up?
funeral for this girl, 12 years old. This is horrible what's taken place. What's taken place in our country, we're literally an uncivilized country now. He doesn't want it to be. He just doesn't know. He opened the borders. Nobody's ever seen anything like. And we have to get a lot of these people out, and we have to get them out fast because they're going to destroy our country. Just take a look at where they're living. They're living in luxury hotels in New York City and other places. Our veterans are on the street. They're
wouldn't really
dying
call them
because he
luxury,
doesn't care
but
about
okay.
our veterans. He doesn't care. He doesn't like the military at all. And he doesn't care about our veterans. Nobody but
Hold on, Ian.
worse. I had the highest approval rating for veterans taking care of the VA. He has the worst. He's gotten rid of all the things that I approved. Choice that I got through Congress, all of the different things I approved, they abandoned. We had by far the highest, and now it's down in less than half because he's done all these great things that we did. And I think he did it just because I approved it, which is crazy. But he has killed so many people at our border by
Thank you,
allowing
President Trump.
all of these people to come in.
President
And it's a
Biden.
very sad day in America.
President Biden, you have the mic.
All right,
Every single
rebuttal.
thing he said is a lie. Every single one. For
Let's go.
example, veterans are a hell of a lot better off since I passed the PACT Act. 1 million
That wasn't
of them
you.
now have
That was
insurance,
lawyers.
and
That
their
had nothing to do
families
with
have it.
you.
Their families have it because what happened.
The PACT Act had nothing to do with you.
Burn pits. They're all being covered now. And he
Yeah,
opposed-
that had nothing to do with
opposed
you,
it.
though.
We're also in a situation
What
where
does he say?
we have great respect for veterans. My son spent a year in Iraq, living one next door.
Dude, lawyers have been fighting for that for years, and they finally got it passed in Congress. That had nothing to do with Joe.
In France.
We're taking credit for stuff he had
D-Day,
nothing to do.
And I spoke all about those heroes that died. I went to the World War II cemetery, World War I cemetery he refused to go to. He was standing with his 4-star general, and he told me, he said, I don't want to go in there because they're a bunch of losers and suckers. My son was not a loser, was not a sucker.
All
You're
right.
the sucker. You're the loser.
You're my son.
First of all, that was a made-up quote, suckers and losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine that's failing, like
Shout out
many
to
of
Blue
these
Biden.
magazines. He made that up. He put it in commercials. We've notified him. We had 19 people that said I didn't say it. And think of this. Who would say I'm at a cemetery or I'm talking about our veterans? Because nobody's taken better care. I'm so glad this came up, and he brought it up. There's nobody that's taken better care of our soldiers than I have. To think that I would, in front of generals and others, say suckers and losers. We have 19 people that said it was never said by me. It was made up by him, just like Russia was made up, just like the 51 intelligence agents are made up, just like the new thing with the 16
He's coming after
economists
him.
are talking. It's the same thing. 51 intelligence agents said that the laptop was Russia disinformation. It wasn't. That came from his son, Hunter. It wasn't Russia disinformation. He made up the suckers and losers, so he should apologize to me right now.
4-star
Yeah, that was a
general
bad
standing
move on his part.
beside was on your staff.
Blue had really
said
nothing to do
you
with this.
said it. Period. That's number one. And number two, the idea that I have to apologize to you for anything along the line. We've done more for veterans than any president has in American history.
Again, that wasn't
American
you.
history. and they now are in their family. The only sacred obligation we have as a country is to care for our veterans when they come home and their families.
Shout out to people
and
watching
equip them
on
when
X.
They go to war. That's what we're doing. That's what the VA is doing
we're
now.
appreciative to have
We're
you guys.
doing more for veterans than ever before in our history.
All right, thank you so much.
Let's move to the topic of foreign policy. I want to begin with Russia's war against Ukraine, which is now in its third year. Former President Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin says he'll only end this war if Russia keeps the Ukrainian territory it has already claimed and Ukraine abandons its bid to join NATO.
That was the whole purpose
Putin's
of him
terms
going to war. So
acceptable
of
to
course,
you?
that's his victory.
First of all, our veterans and our soldiers can't stand this guy. They can't stand him. They think he's the worst commander-in-chief, if that's what you call him,
Stay focused, Trump.
that we've ever had. They can't stand him. So let's get that straight. And they like me more than just about any of them.
All right, talk about
And that's
Putin.
based on every single bit of information. As far as Russia and Ukraine, if we had a real president, the president that knew, that was respected by Putin, he would have never invaded Ukraine. A lot of
I
people
don't know
are
about
dead
that one.
right now, much more than people know. You know,
He really
they talk
wanted
about numbers.
Ukraine's
You can double
territories.
those
I
numbers,
don't know
maybe
if even
triple
if
those
Trump was
numbers.
there, I'm not sure if that
He
even
did
makes a
nothing to
difference.
stop it. In fact, I think he encouraged Russia from going in. I tell you
But
what
there's something
happened.
to
He was
that.
so bad
I mean, I
with
think he was more
Afghanistan.
emboldened.
It was
He's like,
such
what is
a
the U.S. gonna do
horrible
about it?
Embarrassment, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. That when Putin watched that and he saw the incompetence, that he should have fired those generals, like I fired the one that you mentioned, and so he's got no love lost. But he should have fired those generals. No general got fired for the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, Afghanistan, where we left billions of dollars of equipment behind.
That's true.
We lost
He's
13
speaking
beautiful
facts right now.
soldiers,
We left
and
it. We just-
38
we just
soldiers were
dropped it.
obliterated.
They left
And by
it
the way,
there.
we left people behind.
still
too.
gas
we
in
left
the tank.
American citizens behind. When Putin saw that, he said, "You know what? I think we're going to go in and maybe take my." This was his dream. I talked to him about it. His
Yeah,
dream.
because
The
that used to
difference
be a
is
part
he
of
never
the
would
Soviet
have
Union.
invaded
So it's
Ukraine.
territory that used to
Never.
be a part of Russia.
Just like Israel would have never been invaded in a million years by Hamas. You know why? Because Iran was broke with me. I wouldn't let anybody do business with them. They ran out of money. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for anything. No money for terror. That's why you had no terror at all during my administration. This place, the whole world is blowing up under him.
I think Hamas
President
would have
Biden?
found other.
I've never heard so much malarkey in my whole life. Look, the fact of the matter
Found
is
other
that
streams
we're in a
of income. I don't think
situation
that
where, let's
was
take the
solely
last point
dependent
first.
on
Iran
Iran.
attacked American troops, caused brain damage for a
doesn't.
number of these troops, and he did nothing about it. Recently, not when he was president, they attacked. He said they're just having headaches. That's all it is. He didn't do a thing when the attack took place. Number one. Number two, we got over 100,000 Americans and others out of Afghanistan during that airlift.
That wasn't his
Number
argument. His
three,
argument is you left a
found
bunch of
ourselves in a
equipment there.
situation where, if you take a look at what Trump did in Ukraine, this guy told Trump, do whatever you want, and do whatever you want. And that's exactly what Trump
Come on,
did
that's not believable. Come
to
on.
Putin.
Nobody's
encouraged him,
saying
do
that.
whatever you want. And he went in. And listen to what he said when he went in. He was going to take Kyiv in 5 days, remember? Because it's part of the old Soviet Union. That's what he wanted to reestablish.
Yes,
Kyiv.
yes, that is
And
true.
He, in fact,
Putin
didn't do it
wanted
at all.
that
He
piece
didn't
of
when they
land
were to get it
back.
done. And they've lost thousands and thousands of troops, 500,000 troops.
President Trump,
I
as
never
come back
said
to you
that.
for 1 minute, I just want to go back to my original question, which is, are Putin's terms acceptable to you? Keeping the
No, they're
territory
not
in Ukraine?
acceptable. No, they're not acceptable. But look, this is a war that never should have started. If we had a leader in this war, he led everybody along. He's given $200 billion now
The only
or
problem
more
with this question is
to
it
Ukraine.
makes us
He's
seem
given
like
$200 billion.
America has
That's
the
a
authority
lot
to
of
do
money. I
something
don't
about
think there's
that.
ever been anything like
This
it.
is a
Every time
conflict
that
between two sovereign
Zelensky
nations.
comes to this
So
country,
this
he walks
has
away
this
with
is
$60
not
billion.
it's not like we're
He's the
talking about
greatest
somebody
salesman ever.
occupying
And I'm not knocking him. I'm not
Hawaii or
knocking
something like
anything.
that.
I'm only saying
So it's really a bad question.
the
'cause it's
money
like
that we're
it's
spending
between two
on
different
this
countries.
war.
We're
And
not
we
even
shouldn't be
officially
spending- it should have never happened.
allies
I will have
with
that
Ukraine.
war settled between Putin and
So,
Zelensky.
yeah, I don't know.
As
That's to me, that was a bad question.
president-elect, before I take office on January 20th, I'll have that war settled. People being killed so needlessly, so stupidly, and I will get it settled, and I'll get it settled fast before I take office.
President
know-
Biden, you have a minute.
The fact is
All right, we'll
that
see the
Putin
rebuttal.
is a war criminal. He's killed thousands and thousands of people. And he has made one thing clear. He wants to reestablish what was part of the Soviet Empire.
Yes.
Not just a piece. He wants all of Ukraine. That's what he wants. And then you think he'll stop there? Do you think he'll stop when if he takes Ukraine? What do you think happens to Poland? What do you think of Belarus? What do you think happens to those NATO countries? And so if you want a war, you ought to find out what he's going to do, because
that's speculation.
If in fact he does what he says,
you're
and walks
speculating
away.
that he's going to do.
By the way,
he already told you what he
all
wanted.
that money we give Ukraine are from weapons we make here in the United States.
Ukraine also has oil,
not the money at this point.
So I mean, the other places they don't have oil or any resources he wants, and there's no point in taking
funding for Ukraine.
He already has plenty of land. Right?
That's why
Russia's one of the biggest countries on the planet, so this land is not the issue.
Thank you. Moving on to the Middle East. In October, Hamas attacked Israel, killing more than 1,000 people and taking hundreds of hostages.
Okay.
Among those held and thought to still be alive are 5 Americans.
All right.
Israel's response has killed thousands of Palestinians and created a humanitarian crisis in Gaza. President Biden, you've put forward a proposal to resolve this conflict, but so far Hamas has not released the remaining hostages, and Israel is continuing its military offensive in Gaza.
Okay.
So what additional leverage will you use to get Hamas and Israel?
Everyone from the United Nations Security Council straight through to the G7 to the Israelis and Netanyahu himself have endorsed the plan I put forward. Which has 3 stages to it. The first stage is trade the hostages for a ceasefire. Second phase is a ceasefire with additional conditions. The third phase is the end of the war. The only one who wants the war to continue is Hamas. Number one, they're the only ones standing out. We're still pushing hard to get them to accept. In the meantime,
Israel wants that land.
In Israel, we're finding the only
want to
thing
repopulate it with
denied
Jews.
Israel was 2,000-pound bombs. They don't work very well in populated areas. They kill a lot of innocent people. We're providing Israel with all the weapons they need and when they need them.
Right.
And by the way,
they're not self-sufficient. If we stop doing that, this war stops. They don't have money like that.
Intercontinental ballistic missile attack.
That's the way to actually end this war, is stop giving them weapons.
No one Israeli was accidentally killed, and it stopped. We saved Israel. We are the biggest producer of support for Israel of anyone in the world. And so that's
right, for reasons I don't understand.
Hamas cannot be allowed to be continued. We continue to send our experts and our intelligence people as to how they can get Hamas like we did bin Laden. You don't have to do it. And
Hamas
by
is
the
not
way,
a person.
They've been greatly weakened, Hamas. Greatly weakened, and they should be. They should be eliminated. But you've got to be careful for using certain weapons among population centers.
Okay.
Just going back to Ukraine for 1 second. We have an ocean separating us. The European nations together have spent $100 billion, or maybe more than that, less than us. Why doesn't he call them and say, you got to put up your money like I did with NATO? I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. The Secretary General of NATO
this isn't
said
our
Trump did
war.
the most
Why are
incredible
we the only
job
ones
I've ever
putting up
seen.
cash and
They wouldn't
resources?
have any. They were going out of business. We were
Especially
spending
when
almost 100%
Ukraine's their neighbor.
of the
It's
money
not our neighbor.
it was paid by us. He didn't do that. He's getting all. You got to ask these people to put up the money. We're over $100 billion more spent, and it has a bigger impact on them because of location.
It is tied to another question, and that is,
you got to ask them as
what
far
is
as Israel
or who are Israel's
and Hamas.
allies
Israel's the one
beyond
that
the
wants,
U.S.?
He said the only one that wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
President Biden, you have a minute.
I've never heard so much foolishness. This is a guy who wants to get out of NATO. Are you going to stay in NATO? He's going to pull out of NATO. The idea that we have our strength lies in our alliances as well. It may be a big ocean, but we're ever able to avoid a war in Europe, a major war in Europe? What happens if, in fact, you have Putin continue to go into
Well, then his
NATO?
whole point was,
We have an
where
Article
is
5
everyone
agreement.
else? That's
Attack
not.
on one
It's
is
not
attack
about not
on all.
helping. It's more
You
of
wanna
like,
start the
why are we
nuclear
the
war he
only
keeps
ones
talking
helping
about,
people?
go
That
ahead.
was his whole
Let
issue.
Putin go in and control Ukraine and then move on to Poland and other places. See what happens then.
Where's the rest
he
of
has
Europe?
no idea what the hell he's talking about. And by the way, I got 50 other nations around the world to support Ukraine, including Japan and South Korea, because they understand that this kind of dislocation has a serious threat
We have
to
to
the whole
fact check
world
that one. I'm not
peace.
sure about that one.
No major war in Europe has ever been able to be contained just to Europe.
President Trump, just to follow up, Would you support the creation of an independent Palestinian state in order to achieve peace in the region?
I'd have to see, but before we do that, the problem we have is that we spend all the money. So they kill us on trade. I made great trade deals with the European nations because if you add them up, they're about the same size economically. Their economy is about the same size as the United States. And they were no cars, they don't want anything that we have, but we're supposed to take their cars, their food, their everything, their agriculture. I changed that. But the big thing I changed is they don't want to pay. And the only reason that he can play games with NATO is because I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. I said, and he's right about this, I said, no, I'm not going to support NATO if you don't pay. They asked me that question. Would you guard us against Russia?
You know what? I'm thinking he's going this route to avoid answering the question.
At that time, nations at that time.
He still has not answered this question
They said, no, if you don't pay, I won't do that. And you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in the next day and the next months. But now we're in the same position. We're paying everybody's bills.
Let's turn to the issue of democracy. Former President Trump, I want to ask you about January 6, 2021. After you rallied your supporters that day, some of them stormed the Capitol to stop the constitutionally mandated counting of electoral votes. As president, you swore an oath to, quote, preserve, protect, and defend, unquote, the Constitution. What do you say to voters who believe that you violated that oath through your actions and inaction on January 6th and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I don't think too many believe that. And let me tell you about January 6th. On January 6th, we had a great border. Nobody coming through, very few. On January 6th, we were energy independent. On January 6th, we had the lowest taxes ever. We had the lowest regulations ever. On January 6th, we were respected all over the world.
Answer the question, man. This is the second time he's not answering the question.
And then he comes in, and we're now laughed at. We're like a bunch of stupid people. What happened to the United States' reputation under this man's leadership
not answering the question.
Is horrible, including weaponization, which I'm sure at some point you'll be talking about, where he goes after his political opponent because he can't beat him fair and square.
You don't want to answer questions.
You have 80 seconds left. My question was, what do you say to those voters who believe that you violated your constitutional oath through your actions and inaction on January 6, 2021, and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I didn't say that to anybody. I said peacefully and patriotically. And Nancy Pelosi, if you just watched the news from 2 days ago, on tape to her daughter, who's a documentary filmmaker, they say, but she's saying, oh, no, it's my responsibility. I was responsible for this. Because I offered her 10,000 soldiers or National Guard, and she turned them down. And the mayor in writing, by the way, the mayor.
So you're not going to answer the question
turned it down, the mayor of D.C. They turned it down. I offered 10,000 because I could see. I had virtually nothing to do. They asked me to go make a speech. I could see what was happening. Everybody was saying they're going to be there on January 6th. They're going to be there.
All right, and so this is the second question in a row that he is not answering the question.
You could feel it, too, and you could feel it. And I said, they ought to have some National Guard or whatever. And I offered it to her. And she now admits that she turned it down. And it was the same day she was, I don't know, she can't be very happy with her daughter because it made her into a liar. She said, I take full responsibility for January 6th.
President Biden?
Look, he encouraged those folks to go up on Capitol Hill, number one. I sat in that dining room off the Oval Office. He sat there for 3 hours watching, begging, being begged by his vice president and a number of his colleagues on the Republican side as well to do something, to call for a stop, to end it. Instead, they talked about these people being patriots and great patrons of America. In fact, he says he'll now forgive them for what they've done. They've been convicted. He says he wants to commute their sentences and say that no. But he went to every single court in the nation. I don't know how many cases, scores of cases, including the Supreme Court. And they said, no, this guy is responsible for doing what was done. He did do a damn thing. And these people should be in jail. And they should be the ones who are being held accountable. And he wants to let them all out. And now he says if he loses again, such a whiner that he is, that it could be a bloodbath.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Where's the source of that?
What they've done to some people that are so innocent, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. What you have done, how you've destroyed the lives of so many people. When they ripped down Portland, when they ripped down many other cities, you go to Minnesota, Minneapolis, what they've done there, with the fires all over the city. If I didn't bring in the National Guard, that city would have been destroyed. When you look at all of they took over big chunks of Seattle. I was all set to bring in the National Guard. They heard that. They saw them coming, and they left immediately. What he said about this whole subject is so off. Peacefully patriotic. One other thing.
It's little hand gestures.
Unselect committee, which is basically two horrible Republicans that are all gone now, out of office, and Democrats, all Democrats.
Weird way of using his hands.
They destroyed and deleted all of the information they found because they found out we were right. We were right. And they deleted and destroyed all of the information. They should go to jail for that. If a Republican did that, they'd go to jail.
Thank you, President Trump.
Okay,
President
not
Biden,
answering the question or having a
The
rebuttal.
only person on this stage is a convicted felon is the man I'm looking at right now. And the fact of the matter is, what he's telling you is simply not true. The fact is that there was no effort on his part to stop what was going on up in Capitol Hill.
That would be
all
true.
Those people, every one of those who were convicted.
He didn't actually say, "Hey, Ryan, what are we doing?
The idea
Stop doing
that
that."
they didn't kill somebody just went in and broke
But
down
here's the
doors,
problem: is
broke
he's
the
not being
windows,
really honest about it
occupied offices
because he
turned over
left.
desks. Turned them over
Like Trump
statues.
left, and
The
then
idea
that stuff happened.
That those
So
people are patriots.
It's not really being honest about the situation.
When I asked him the first two debates we had, first time around, I said, "Will you denounce the Proud Boys?" He said, "No, I'll tell them to stand by." The idea he's refusing, will you denounce these guys? Will you denounce the people we're talking about now? Will you denounce the people who attacked that Capitol? What are you going to do?
I'm going to give you a minute, President Trump, for a follow-up question I have. After a jury convicted you of 34 felonies last month, you said if reelected, you would, quote, have every right to go after, unquote, your political opponents. You just talked about members of the Select Committee on January 6th going to jail. Your main political opponent is standing on stage with you tonight. Can you clarify exactly what it means about you feeling you have every right to go after?
You not answer this question
opponents?
too?
Well, I said my retribution is going to be success. We're going to make this country successful again because right now it's a failing nation. My retribution is going to be success. But when he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon.
Oh, here we go, Hunter Biden.
High level. His son is convicted, going to be convicted probably numerous other times. Should have been convicted before, but his Justice Department let the statute of limitations lapse on the most important things. But he could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. He's done horrible things. All of the death caused at the border, telling the Ukrainian people that we're going to want $1 billion or you change the prosecutor. Otherwise, you're not getting $1 billion. If I ever said that, that's quid pro quo. That we're not going to do anything. We're not going to give you $1 billion unless you change your prosecutor having to do with the son. This man is a criminal.
Yep.
This man, you're lucky. You're lucky. I did nothing wrong. We'd have a system that was rigged and disgusting. I did nothing wrong.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden.
He's not answering any questions.
Coming right to you, sir. Well, you want to respond? Go ahead. I'll give you a minute to respond.
The idea that I did anything wrong relative to what you're talking about is outrageous. It's simply a lie, number one. Number two, the idea that you have a right to seek retribution against any American.
I think his point is
wrong.
I'm just as crooked as you guys are. I think that's what it's.
No president.
We all crooked in this house.
I think that's what his point is.
Number three, the crimes that you are still charged with, and think of all the civil penalties you have. How many billions of dollars do you owe in civil penalties for molesting a woman in public, for doing a whole range of things, of having sex with a porn star?
You can't go to jail for having sex with a porn star. What is he talking about?
What are you talking about?
That's not illegal.
It's
not illegal.
Give you a minute, sir.
I didn't have sex with a porn star, number one. Number two, that was a case that was started and moved. They moved a high-ranking official
is
at
he not
DOJ into
considering
the
Stormy
DA's
Daniels a porn
office
star?
to
Because she
start
definitely
that
is.
case. That case is going to be appealed and
Yes,
won.
broken traditions. I
We
mean,
had
that's
a
what they
very,
all do the same stuff, and that's all
terrible
Trump was
judge,
saying. It's like,
horrible
look,
judge,
I was doing what you
Democrat.
guys do.
The prosecutor were all high-ranking Democrats, appointed people, and both the civil and the criminal. He basically went after.
That's
his
true. I mean,
political
you could say that
opponent
he didn't
because
have a
he thought it was
fair
gonna damage
trial
me. But when
based
the
off of
public
those things.
found out
That's
about
fine.
these cases, because they understand it better than he does. He has no idea what these cases are. But when they found out about these cases, you know what they did? My poll numbers went up, way up. You know that because you're
Seriously though,
we took in more money.
It's not
in the last
illegal.
2 weeks
Like
than we've ever taken in the history of.
You don't get a
any
charge for
campaign.
that.
I don't think any campaign has ever taken. Hundreds of millions of dollars came pouring in because the public knows it's a scam and it's a guy that's after his political opponent because he can't win fair and square.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, quote, Donald Trump and his MAGA Republicans are determined to destroy American democracy. Do you believe that the tens of millions of Americans who are likely to vote for President Trump will be voting against American democracy?
Let's go.
The more they know about what he's done, yes. The more they know about what he's done. And there's a lot more coming. He's got a lot of cases down the road coming out. He's got a whole range of issues he has to face. I don't know what the juries will do, but I do know he has a real problem. And so the fact that, could you ever think you heard any president say?
Yeah, I have no idea. He's been sounding like that, though.
You ever hear any presidents say that I thought Hitler had some good ideas? What got me involved to run in the first place after my son had died, I decided in Iraq, because of Iraq, I said I wasn't going to run again until I saw what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. People coming out of the woods carrying swastikas on torches.
Yeah, they weren't carrying swastikas, they were carrying torches.
The same anti-Semitic bile
torches.
they sang when back in Germany.
And that's not the reason why you ran. You ran because you've always wanted to be president. So let's just be real.
They asked him, they said, what do you think of those people? The people the ones who got killed, the one who tried to stop it, and the ones he said, I think they're fine people on both sides. What American president would ever say, Nazis coming out of fields, carrying torches, singing the same anti-Semitic bile, carrying swastikas, were fine people? This is a guy who says Hitler's done some good things. I'd like to know what they are. The good things Hitler's done.
You know, he's not.
This guy has no sense of American democracy.
I thought they would prepare him more.
President Trump.
Jake, both of you know that story has been totally wiped out because when you see the sentence, it said 100% exoneration on that. So he just keeps it going. He says he ran because of Charlottesville. He didn't run because of Charlottesville. He ran because it was his last chance.
That's what I just said.
To be president,
because that's what's the truth. He always wanted to be president.
We're trying to justify his presidency. His presidency, he's without question the worst president, the worst presidency in the history of our country. We shouldn't be having a debate about it. There's nothing to debate. He made up the Charlottesville story, and you'll see it's debunked all over the place. Every anchor has every reasonable
Joe does not look good right now.
Debunked it.
His old man facial expression looks pretty
it was
bad.
Fully debunked.
Like, can I show this?
Nonsense.
I know they've
story.
been going crazy on.
And he didn't
there
run
you go.
Because of Charlottesville, he used that as an excuse to run.
It's a great still frame.
And debunked. It happened. All you have to do is listen to what was said at the time. And the idea that somehow that's the only reason I ran. I ran because I was worried a guy like this guy could get elected. If he thought they were good people coming out of that forest, carrying those woods, carrying those torches, then he didn't deserve to be president. Didn't deserve to be president at all. And the idea that he's talking about all this being fabricated, we saw with our own eyes. We saw what happened on January 6th. We saw the people breaking through the windows. We saw people occupying his own vice president. Look, there's a reason why 40 of his 44 top cabinet officers refused to endorse him this time. His vice president hasn't endorsed him this time. So why? Why? They know him well. They serve with him. Why are they not endorsing him?
Thank you, President Biden. We're going to be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate.
All right, first commercial break. What are you guys thinking so far? I mean, it's playing out how I anticipated this to play out. Joe does not look good. He does not look good. He looks very old. At times, he forgot what he was talking about. He starts switching subjects all willy and nilly. Trump looks like Trump. And he's refusing to answer really tough questions. You know, we noticed he didn't answer the question about January 6th. He, sidestepped that. He did not want to answer the question about, do you believe in an independent Palestinian state? I'm not even going to touch that one, right? So I think it's strategic. I think he's playing to his strengths very well. If this was like a boxing match, I would say that Trump is ahead right now. Okay. Vote saying that I think I'm voting independent. And that's there's an argument that people always like to say is if you don't vote for XYZ, then you're throwing away your vote because that means you're voting for the other guy. And that just means, to me, I interpret that as, so then I don't have a real say. Like, I don't have a voice with my vote. Like, if I don't align with what you want me to do, therefore, it's invalid. So I don't actually have a say. And I don't really agree with that. I think people need to vote their interests. And we need more candidates. The fact that we're allowing the Republican and Democratic parties to run our campaign system sucks. Like, we need to have more variety. The UK has multiple political parties. I think they have like 6 or something like that. And so we need to have more variety there. Broken traditions, he says, this debate is as trash as I expected it to be. Yes. Can you honestly say you learned anything from this? I haven't. What is it? Well, this is why I wanted to do this, because I was thinking of not even watching this because it could be perceived as a waste of time. But the issue is these two are the ones that are going to be on the ballot. I did try to find who else was running. I know one of the Kennedys, he's running for office. I think Jill Stein is also running for office. And then Cornel West is also running. So, are those real options? Is Joe and Trump real options, right? I mean, what's the standard? We don't even have a standard anymore. So we'll see what the second half looks like, or I guess the third. I don't know what time it is right now, but all right, yeah. So we got about another hour. All as well as saying independent isn't sounding so bad right now. It really isn't. This is sad. I mean, I've never been so unenthused in an election before. Man, this is a hot mess. That's all I can really say about this. This is an absolute hot mess. We're not doing too good right now. But these two as our options. Oh, we're coming back. All right, we're coming back.
Welcome back to the CNN presidential debate live from Georgia.
Let's
go. Talk about persistent challenges you both faced in your first terms and you'd certainly face again in a second term. President Biden, while black unemployment dropped to a record low under your presidency, black families still earn far less than white families.
I hate
black
this.
mothers are still 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes, and black Americans are imprisoned at 5 times the rate of white Americans.
This is going to be some absolute shit.
What do you say to black voters who are disappointed that you haven't made more progress?
They acknowledge they made a lot of progress, number one.
Don't lie.
The fact of the matter is there's more small black businesses that have been started than any time in history.
Small black businesses or self-employed people?
Black unemployment is the lowest level it's been in a long
Again,
long
self-employed
time.
and gig economy stuff?
We're providing housing for black Americans.
Housing?
And
Where?
Dealing with the segregation that exists among these corporate...
The hell is this man talking about?
These corporations that collude to keep people out of their houses. And in addition to that, we find that the impact on the choice that black families have to make relative to child care is incredibly difficult. When we did the first major piece of legislation in the past, I was able to reduce black child care costs. I cut them in half.
How?
In half. We got to make sure we provide for child care costs. We got to make sure, because when you provide those child care protections, you increase.
Are you talking about child care costs? You talking about single moms or black families? I don't constitute single mom households as the whole of black families.
But we've done a
obviously, I'm a black man with a son and wife.
You have 49 seconds left.
I knew that was going to be some
What do you
shit.
say to black voters who are disappointed with the progress so far?
I say I don't blame them for being disappointed. Inflation is still hurting them badly. For example, I provided for the idea that any black family, first-time home buyer, should get a $10,000 tax credit to be able to buy their first home, so they can get started. I made sure
tax credit doesn't help you with actually getting a home, though.
And those black individuals who provided had to take out student loans that were ballooning, that if they were engaged in nursing, anything having to do with volunteerism. If they paid their bills for 10 years on their student debt, all the rest is forgiven after 10 years. Millions have benefited from that. And we're going to do a whole lot more for black families.
Thank you, President Trump.
He was struggling
And he caused
to
the
that.
inflation. He's blaming inflation, and he's right. It's been very bad. He caused the inflation, and it's killing black families and Hispanic families. and
What's,
just about
what's Zeus
everybody.
Network?
It's killing people. They can't buy
Kyle.
groceries anymore.
Mr.
They
Cowley.
can't. You look at the cost of food, where it's doubled and tripled and quadrupled. They can't live. They're not living anymore. He caused this inflation. I gave him a country with essentially no inflation. It was perfect. It was so good. All he had to do is leave it alone.
Yeah, it
he
wasn't
destroyed
perfect.
it with his
was
Green
better
New
than what it was
Scam
right
and
now,
all
though.
all this money that's being thrown out the window. He caused inflation. As sure as you're sitting there, the fact is that his big kill on the black people is the millions of people that he's allowed to come in through the border. They're taking black jobs now, and it could be 18, it could be 19, and even 20 million people.
Unskilled
They're
labor
taking black
jobs.
jobs, and they're taking Hispanic
That's not
jobs.
black jobs.
And you haven't seen it yet, but you're going to see something
You're not
that's
taking
going to be the worst
skilled
in our
labor
history.
stuff.
Thank you. President Biden?
Oh,
There was no inflation
That's
when
fine.
I became president. You know why?
Bad
the
black
economy
reality
was
TV.
flat on its back. 15% unemployment. He decimated the economy. Absolutely decimated the economy. That's why there was
50%
no
unemployment. Are you
inflation
talking about
at the
COVID?
time.
That wasn't
There were no
him.
jobs. We provided thousands
That was
of
COVID.
millions of jobs for individuals who are in all communities, including minority communities. We made sure that they have health insurance. We have covered, if the ACA has increased, I made sure that they're $8,000 per person in a family to get written off for health care. But this guy wants to eliminate that. They tried 50 times. He wants to get rid of the ACA again, and they're going to try again if they win. You find ourselves in a position where the idea that we're not doing any, we put more police on the street than any administration has. He wants to cut the cops.
What are you talking
We're
about?
providing
That's
for
not. That wouldn't be
equity-
you. That would be the
equity and
states
making
or
sure
the
people have
cities.
a
You don't have any
shot
control
to
over
make
people
it.
hiring and
There's
police
a lot
officers.
going on, but in inflation, he caused it by his tremendous malfeasance in the way he handled
What?
the pandemic.
Thank you. Another persistent challenge
What was he
is the
saying?
climate crisis. 2023 was the hottest year in
Oh,
recorded
geez.
history, and communities
Sleepy
across
Joe.
the country are confronting the devastating effects of extreme heat, intensifying wildfires, stronger hurricanes, and rising sea levels. Former President Trump, you've vowed to end your opponent's climate initiatives, but will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
Well, let me just go back to what he said about the police, how close the police are to him. Almost every police group in the nation from every state is supporting Donald J. Trump. Almost every police group. And what he's done to the black population is horrible, including the fact that for 10 years he called them super predators. We can't, in the 1990s, we can't forget that.
Oh,
Super
don't look
predators was
confused
his
now.
name.
Come on now.
And he
Come
called
on,
it
Joe.
to them.
Don't look
And
confused.
they've taken great offense
You
at
were
it, and now
you
they see it happening.
you
But
jailed a
when
lot
they
of
see
folks.
what I did
Come
for
on now.
criminal justice reform.
You did call them
and
super
for the
predators. Let's not be real. Let's
black,
be real.
Colleges and
Tough on
universities
crime?
where I
Ring the
funded
bell?
them and got them all funded. And the
was a good
opportunity
one.
zones with Tim, as you know, Tim Scott was incredible. He did a great job. Great senator from South Carolina. He came to me with the idea, and it was a great idea. It's one of the most successful economic development acts ever in the country, opportunity zones. And the biggest beneficiary are blacks. And that's why we have the best numbers with them in maybe ever. They're saying ever. I read this morning where ever, the best numbers. He's lost
Broken traditions. Did you
much
buy
of
his
the
sneaker?
black population.
Let me know if you
because
bought a
he's done
sneaker.
a horrible job for black people. He's also done a horrible job for Hispanics. But wait till you see these millions of people pouring into our country, and they're going to take the jobs, and it's already started, and you haven't seen anything yet. It's a disaster.
He did. He came
38
prepared
seconds
with the
left.
buzzwords.
President
I mean, that
Trump,
was a
will you
thing.
take any action as president
Super
to
predator
slow
was
the
a thing.
climate crisis?
So I want absolutely immaculate clean water, and I want absolutely clean air, and we had it. We had H2O. We had the best numbers ever, and we were using all forms of energy, all forms,
Yeah,
everything.
I have to
And yet,
disagree with him on that
during
one.
my 4 years, I had the best.
We didn't have the best water. We still had the PFAS. If you guys watch our PFAS episode, we had that
statistic
for
just
years.
before I walked on the stage.
It's gotten progressively worse. I can't blame it on the
Where have we always
president.
been. The idea,
He said, I
Randy,
know.
he said it's true. I've passed the most extensive,
Yeah, no, that was an
most
ugly
extensive
sneaker. I
climate
wasn't doing
change
that. Sorry, it's a pass for
legislation
me.
in history. We find ourselves, and by the way, black colleges. I came up with $15 billion for HBCUs, historic black
Yeah,
universities.
Trump
and
gave
colleges,
money to HBCUs
because they
too,
don't
so that's a
have
wash.
They don't have the kind of contributors that they have to build these laboratories and the like. Any black student is capable in college of doing any white student can do. They just don't have the money, but now they'll be able to get those jobs in high tech.
Yeah, I don't like the
We're in a
connotation of us
situation where
being
the idea
poor.
that
I don't like
he
that.
is claiming to have done something that had the cleanest water. The cleanest water? He hadn't done a damn thing for the environment. He pulled out of the
Yeah, so
Paris
the
Peace
clean
Accord,
water was a
climate
bad
accord.
move on Trump's
I
part. You
immediately
can attack him
joined
for
it,
that. That's fine.
Because if we reach 1.5 degrees Celsius at any one point, where there's no way back. The only
The issue
existential
with
threat
the
to
whole
humanity
global
is
warming
climate
thing is
change.
the
And
U.S.
he didn't do a damn
can't
thing
do
about
it
it.
independently.
He wants to
It's
undo
going to
all
have
that
to be a
I've done.
world effort. So
The Paris Accord
it's kind of a
was
stupid
gonna
question
cost
because
us
it's
$1
not like
trillion,
we have control
and
over
China
that.
nothing, and Russia nothing, and India nothing. It was a ripoff of the United States. And
By ourselves.
I ended it because I didn't want to waste that money because they treat us horribly. We were the only ones. It was costing us money. Nobody else was paying into it, and it was a disaster. But everything that he said just now, I'll give you an example. I heard him say before insulin. I'm the one that got the insulin down for the seniors. I took care of the seniors. What he's doing is destroying all of our medical programs because the migrants coming in, they want everybody. And look, I have the biggest heart on the stage. I guarantee you that. And I want to take care of people.
Yeah,
But we're
we can't really
destroying
buy
our
that one.
country.
Sorry.
They're taking over our schools, our hospitals, and they're going to be taking over Social Security. He is destroying Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
The idea is that we, in fact,
Yeah, see, that's again, that's where I didn't like the connotation. It was like we're not second-class citizens, and even, both of them actually, for that matter, because Trump is saying that the only jobs that we are concerned about are low-level, unskilled labor jobs. That's not it either.
Number
So
one, we're making significant
yeah,
progress.
both of them.
By 2035,
Can
we
kiss
will
my
have
butt on that one.
pollution in half. We have made significant progress, and we're continuing to make progress. We set up a climate corps for thousands of young people to learn how to deal with climate, just like the Peace Corps. And we're going to
Climate Corps, that sounds
directions that are
ridiculous.
going to significantly change the elements of cause of pollution. But the idea that he claims that he has the biggest heart up here and he's really concerned about pollution and about climate, I've not seen any indication of that. And by the way, with regard to prescription drugs, one company agreed that they would reduce the price to $35, which I was calling for, one, voluntarily. I made sure every company in the world, every pharmaceutical
We'd have to verify
company
that.
cannot have to pay.
Thank you.
And by the way,
unless you're talking about just a Medicare.
So
thing.
every day, millions of Americans struggle just to make ends meet. For many older Americans, Social Security provides a critical lifeline. President Biden, if nothing is done to Social Security, seniors will see their benefits cut in just over 10 years. Will you name tonight one specific step that you're willing to take to keep Social Security solvent?
yes, make the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share. Right now, everybody making under $170,000 pays 6% of their income, of their paycheck, every single time they get a paycheck from the time the first one.
You said
they get
100,000?
When they're 18 years old.
That's not true.
The idea that they're going to, I'm proposing that everybody, they pay, the millionaires pay 1%. So no one I would not raise the cost of Social Security for anybody under $400,000. After that, I began to make the wealthy begin to pay their fair share.
I don't want to hear them talk.
1% beyond to be able to guarantee the program for life.
So you still
Everybody
have 82
that I
seconds
know
left.
who
Are there
makes that
any
level
other
of
measures
money,
that you think that would be able to
the
help,
main thing they
keep
complain
Social
about is
Security
taxes. So
solvent, or is
him
just-
saying that they
is
only
that
pay
one enough?
6%, I don't know where he's getting his
that one
facts
enough
from.
will keep it solvent, but the
It can't be
biggest
from real
thing we'll
people,
do If we defeat this man, because he
Maybe
wants
like
to
the
get cut
ultra
Social
wealthy,
Security.
maybe that's
He
a different
thinks there's
conversation.
plenty
Maybe
to
that's
cut
what
in
he's
Social
talking
Security.
about.
He's wanting to cut Social Security and Medicare both times, and that's what. And if you look at the program put forward by the House Republican caucus that he, I believe, supports, is in fact want to cut it as well. The idea that we don't need to protect our seniors is ridiculous. And by the way, the American
saying that?
public has greater health care coverage today than ever before. And on the ACA, as I said, you're in a circumstance where 400,000 people 40 million people would not have insurance because they have a pre-existing condition. Only thing that allows them to have that insurance is the fact that they, in fact, are part of the ACA. And by the way, the other thing is, we're in a situation where I talk about education for black communities. I've raised the amount of money for Pell Grants by another $8,000. So anybody making under $70,000 a year is going to be able to get $15,000 toward their tuition. He just doesn't know what he's talking about.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
So I've dealt with politicians all my life. I've been on this side of the equation for the last 8 years. I've never seen anybody lie like this guy. He lies. I've never seen it. He can look you in the face. About so many other things, too.
That's funny.
And we mentioned the laptop. We mentioned Russia, Ukraine. Everything he does is a lie. It's misinformation and disinformation. The losers and suckers story that he made up is a total lie on the military. It's a disgrace. But Social Security, he's destroying it because millions of people are pouring into our country, and they're putting them on
the real issue with Social Security, and they're both missing this, is the fact that we're declining in our young population, right? People aren't having kids at the rates that we need them, and so it's the young population that pays into Social Security in order to pay it out to the older ones. We're getting older, but we're getting less kids.
It's really
the math. It's all about math.
I've never seen such anger in our country before.
President Biden?
So you would need to promote family and people making kids in order for you to really do something about.
By the way, when I said suckers and losers, he said
Social Security.
He acknowledged after he fired that general. That general got fired.
Now we're talking about something that's completely unrelated.
He acknowledged that that's what he said. He was the one standing with Trump when he said it. Number one. Number two, the idea that we're going to be in a situation where all these millions and millions, the way he talks about it, illegal aliens are coming into the country and taking away our jobs. There's a reason why we have the fastest growing economy in the world. The reason why we have the most successful economy in the world. We're doing better than any other nation in the world. And by the way, those 15 Nobel laureates he talked about being phony, those 15 Nobel laureates, economists, they all said that if Trump is reelected, we're likely to have a recession and inflation is going to increase.
For what reason?
And go up. And by the way, worst president in history, 159 presidential scholars voted him the worst president in history.
159 out of the whole country that
President
has
Biden, thank you so much.
People?
Let's turn to the cost of child care, which many American families struggle to afford. President Trump, both you and President Biden have tried to address this issue, but the average cost of child
they're not answering questions. They're completely going off subject.
$11,000 a year per child for many families.
That's Tapper.
The cost of child care for 2 children is more than their rent. In your second term, what would you do to make child care more affordable?
Just to go back, the general got fired because he was no good. And if he said that, that's why he made it up. But we have 19 people that said I didn't say it, and they're very highly
But also, this is
respected,
kind of a weird question because
the other thing is,
isn't that a private business issue?
Fire people.
Right? You would have to be something along the lines of
I've never seen
why has costs go up? Why is costs going up so high? That would be the question that really needs to be answered.
They were no good. Not easy to fire people. You'd pay a price for it, but they were no good. I inherited these people. I didn't put them there. I didn't put Comey there. He was no good. I fired him. This guy hasn't fired anybody. He never fires. He should have fired every military man that was involved with that Afghan.
I mean, he is known for that, too, so that makes sense.
Horror show.
Trump, you're
the
fired.
Most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. He didn't fire. Did you fire anybody? Did you fire anybody that's on the border that's allowed us to have the worst border in the history of the world? Did anybody get fired for allowing 18 million people, many from prisons, many from mental institutions? Did you fire anybody that allowed our country to be destroyed?
That wasn't a.
Joe, our country.
I live in Texas. That's not. It's the lack of
a lot of time on this debate.
Personnel.
This shouldn't be a debate. He is the worst president. He just said about me because I said it. But look. He's the worst president in the history of our country. He's destroyed our country.
I don't know anything about
now,
California,
all of a sudden,
though.
He's trying to get a little tough on the border. He came out with a nothing.
But really, the issue, though, would be more of not necessarily the border itself, but more of like people overstaying their visas, like flying into the country.
He wants our country to either be destroyed or he wants to pick up those people as voters. And I don't think we just can't let it happen. If he wins this election, our country doesn't have a chance, not even a chance, of coming out of this rut.
They're both saying that. Like, they're both saying this is a zero-sum game. If this guy gets elected,
he's the worst in history.
It's all going to go to the crap. This guy's going to leave. They're both playing the same game.
We're the United
Who's
States
really
of
telling the
America.
truth?
There's nothing beyond our capacity. We have the finest military in the history of the world, the finest in the history of the world. No one thinks we're weak. No one.
That's
wants
not
to screw
true.
around with us. Nobody.
I don't know
Number
what makes
one.
America's
Number two, the
military so
idea
great
that
as
we're
far as our
talking
track
about
record is
worst
concerned. I
presidents.
mean,
I wasn't
we
joking.
threw bombs on people,
Look it up,
but
go online.
have we won anything since World War II?
159 or 58, don't hold me the exact number.
And I don't blame that on the
Presidential
actual
historians,
people.
They
I think
had meetings and they voted.
the
Who was
training is well,
worst
but
president in
our
American history.
directives are
One
terrible.
for
And
best
that's
to
coming
worst.
straight from the president's
They said he
office.
was the worst in all of American history. That's a fact. That's not conjecture. He can argue they're wrong, but that's what they voted. The idea that he is doing anything to deal with child care, he did for virtually nothing to child care. We should significantly increase the child care tax credit. We should significantly increase the availability of women and men or single parents to be able to go back to work. And we should encourage businesses to have.
So this is kind of what I was
President
thinking.
Trump, the question was
So
about
here's
what would you do
here's
to make
my
childcare more
idea
affordable?
here,
If you wanna
right?
take a minute.
Just so you understand,
Biden is black
we have
women's
polling, we have
president,
other things
right?
that do
For
get rid of
good,
the worst,
bad, or indifferent.
because what he's done is so bad.
And instead of
And they
encouraging
rate me-
families,
I'll show you,
which
I
is
will show you.
what got
And they
that
rate
one
me
guy
one of the
in
best,
serious heat.
okay? And
We want
if
to
I'm given
continue
another
this
4
pattern
years,
of single
I will
mom
be the
households.
best.
Let's
I think
make
I'll
this
be the
easier
best.
for them.
Nobody's ever created an economy like us. Nobody ever cut taxes.
There's a
like
policy
us.
problem.
He's the only one I know. He wants to
And
raise
it's a
your
culture
taxes
problem.
by
We've already
4
kinda talked about it on
times.
culture
He wants
in
to
different- in
raise
different
everybody's
episodes.
taxes by 4 times. He wants the Trump tax cuts to expire.
Yeah, I'm
so
not sure if he
everybody,
understands what
including
facts
the
are.
2 of you, are going to pay 4 to 5 times. Nobody ever heard of this before. All my life, I'd grow up and I'd see politicians talking about cutting taxes. When we cut taxes, as I said, we did more business. Apple and all these companies, they were bringing money back into
There
our
is something
country.
to that.
The worst
We've already talked
president
about
in
that
history
before.
by far, and everybody knows it.
The lower taxes, you actually do
Look,
get people to
fact of the
comply a
matter
little bit
is
more.
that he's dead wrong about. He's increased the tariff. He will increase the taxes on middle class people. I said I'd never raise a tax on anybody making less than $400,000. I didn't. But this
Well, he
tariff
just
is
said it,
10% tariff.
right?
Everything
His
coming in
whole
the country,
focus,
you know
if you
what
listen to what he
Congress
said, is it's
That's gonna cost
predominantly
the average
on
American
single households.
$2,500 a year.
And so, which
more
makes sense because
they're
of
gonna
his
have to pay the
base,
difference
the people who
in
have been
food
staunch
and
voting
all
for
the things that
him,
were important.
that's what they advocate
Number two,
for. So
he's in a situation
does
where
that benefit
he
the
talks
country at
about
large?
how he is not
It's too early to tell. I would say
he's-
no,
he's
but it's too early to
somehow
tell
helped the middle
statistically.
class. Middle class have been
But no,
devastated.
I don't see that moving
Now
in a
you
good
want a new
direction.
tax cut of
That's not something we should be
$5 trillion
promoting.
over the next 10 years
As a country.
which is going to fundamentally bankrupt the
Individuals
country.
do it with their own
We have the
time and their
largest
own
deficit
lives
of
is
any
one
president
thing.
in American history.
We shouldn't be
Number
advocating
one.
for these things.
Number two, you
And
have
the whole
not,
thing
in
about
fact,
what's her
made
name?
Any contact?
Ebony K. Williams?
Any progress?
Right?
with
She's
China.
being a poster child of
We are
what
the lowest
what the
trade
new black
deficit with
family
China
looks like. That's
since
the new black family.
2010.
It's
Thank you,
just
President
highest.
Biden.
You lost
some
it.
lady
Thank
and
you,
her kid.
President Biden. Let's discuss an epidemic impacting millions of Americans that both of you have made a top priority in your first term, the opioid crisis. And for both of you, the number of overdose deaths in this country has gone up. Under your term, it went up. Under your term,
All right,
it
we're
has
talking
gone
about
up.
fentanyl. Let's go.
Former President Trump, despite the efforts that both of you have made, more than 100,000 Americans are dying from overdoses every year, primarily from fentanyl and other opioids. What will you do to help Americans right now in
That's
the
a border
throes
problem.
of addiction who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
To finish up, we now have the largest deficit in the history of our country under this guy. We have the
Okay,
largest
stay focused
deficit
now.
with China.
That's a big issue. You need to
He
stay
gets paid
focused.
by China. He's a Manchurian candidate. He gets money from China. So I think he's afraid to deal with
The issue
them,
with the
something.
fentanyl thing
But
is
you notice he never
there's
took out my
people are
tariffs
lacing
because we bring
fentanyl
in
and
so
other
much
drugs.
money with the
Right, so
tariffs
people are
that I
buying
imposed on China. He
weed and
never took them
whatnot,
away. He can't because
thinking they're
it's
just
too
getting
much
weed
money.
and it's laced with
It's
fentanyl.
tremendous.
They're
And we
dying
saved
from
our steel
overdoses.
industries, and there was more to come.
Texas has a
He
lot
hasn't
of
done
those
that.
stories. If you guys
But he hasn't cut
go to
the tariffs
YouTube,
because he can't,
and
because
fentanyl
it's too
Texas
much
stories.
money.
There's
But
a
he's
bunch
got
of
the
those. They've
largest
done a really good
deficit
job of
in
highlighting
the
those
history
stories.
of our country, and he's got the worst situation with China. China's going to own us if you keep allowing them to do what they're doing to us as a country.
All right, stay
They
focused,
are
man.
killing us as a
Answer this
country,
question.
Joe,
This is actually
and you
a
can't
really
let that happen.
good
You're
question to
destroying our
answer.
country.
So, President Trump, you have 67 seconds left. The question was, what are you going to do to help Americans in the throes of addiction right now who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
Jake, we were doing very well at addiction until the COVID came along. We had the 2.5, almost 3 years of like
I
nobody's
think you're
ever
trying
had before,
to
any
oh,
country
sorry.
in every way.
I think that's not
And
addressing
then
the
we
real
had to get
problem.
tough.
That's addressing
And it
a
was
symptom
the
of the
drugs
problem. The
pouring
problem
across the
is
border
why is fentanyl
were-
so heavily available?
It started to
Why is
increase.
fentanyl
We
being
got
laced
great
with all these different
equipment.
drugs?
We bought the certain dog that's the most incredible
That's the
thing that
issue.
you've ever
I mean,
seen. The way
when
they
somebody
can
is
spot
addicted
it.
already,
We
that
did a
you know,
lot.
they're
And
already
we were getting
like.
very
Why don't we
low
ever
numbers,
address the beginning
very,
part of
very
the
low
problem?
numbers. Then he came
always so
along.
focused on the end.
numbers-
Like,
have
how do
you
we-
seen
how do
the
we start
numbers
here?
Now? It's not only the 18
Why are
million
people
that I believe
so
is even
willing
low,
to
because
get
the
into drugs to
gotaways,
begin
they don't
with?
even
Why
talk
are they
about
so miserable?
gotaways. But the numbers of
We were talking about
the
somebody
amount
who's
of
already
drugs
addicted.
and human trafficking in women coming across our border. The worst thing I've ever seen, at numbers that nobody's ever seen under him because the border's so bad. But the number of drugs coming across our border now is the largest we've ever had.
That's
by
true.
far.
I mean, that is a
President
true
Trump, thank
thing.
you.
What he's saying
President
is true.
Fentanyl and the byproducts of fentanyl went down for a while. And I wanted to make sure we use the machinery that can detect fentanyl, these big machines that roll over everything that comes across the border. And it costs a lot of money. That was part of this deal we put together, this bipartisan deal.
I need to.
More
If
fentanyl
anybody has
machines,
any source to
more
verify what he
be able
just
to
said,
detect
because
drugs,
I've seen that
more
fentanyl has
numbers
increased. He's
of
saying
agents,
decreased. I
more
don't know about that
numbers
one.
of all the people at the border. And when we had that deal done, he called his Republican colleagues, said, "Don't do it. It's going to hurt me politically." No, he never argued it's not a good bill. It's a really good bill. We need those machines. We need those machines.
Hey,
We're
you know,
coming down very hard
I'm
in
happy
every
with my
country
8.
in Asia in terms of precursors.
It's all
of
love over
fentanyl,
here.
And Mexico is working with us to make
It's a
sure
strong 8.
they don't have the technology to be able to put it together. That's what we have to do. We need those machines.
Thank you, President
Okay,
Biden.
I'll
President
take the
Trump, and
machines.
again, the question
But
is
again, I
about
don't know about your claim of it
Americans in the throes
decreasing.
of addiction right now, struggling to
I
get
think
the
that's false on
treatment
that
they
one.
need.
Well, because this does pertain to it. He ended remain in Mexico. He ended catch and release. I made it catch and release in Mexico, not catch and release here. We had so many things that we had done, hard negotiations with Mexico, and I got it all for nothing. It's just like when you have a hostage. We always pay $6 billion for a hostage. Every time we say it's a hostage. Now we have a hostage, a Wall Street Journal reporter, I think a good guy, and he's over there because Putin is laughing at this guy, probably asking for billions of dollars for the reporter. I will have him out very quickly as soon as I take office. Before I take office, I said by literally as soon as I win the election, I will have that reporter out. He should have had him out a long time ago. But Putin's probably asking for billions and billions of dollars.
For that
because this guy
comment,
pays it every
is that
time.
on?
We had
I
two
think that's
cases.
just
We
on
paid $6
YouTube. I don't know what our
billion
numbers
for
are
5
looking like on
people.
Twitter.
I got 58 people out, and I paid essentially nothing.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
For those 8.
Let's turn to concerns that voters have about each of you. President Biden,
let's get to it.
you would be 86 at the end of your second term. How do you address concerns about your capability to handle the toughest job in the world?
Let's
well
go.
into your 80s?
What's this answer?
Well, first of all, I spent half my career being criticized as being the youngest person in politics. I was the second youngest person ever elected to the United States Senate.
Okay, that was 100
Now I'm
years
the
ago.
oldest. This guy's 3 years younger and a lot less competent. I think that just look at the record. Look at what I've done.
No evidence for
I've
that one.
turned around the horrible situation he left me. As I said, 15 million new
Oh,
jobs,
shout outs to the 19 on
80,000
X.
manufacturing jobs, more investment in America, over billions of dollars in private investment in enterprises that we are growing. By the way, we brought an awful lot of people. Well, the whole idea.
He's already stumbling.
Computer chips, we used to have 40% of
He's not.
Americans
He's not doing a
who
very good
invented
job
those
with this
chips.
answer.
And we lost it because he was sending people to find the cheapest
Come on
jobs
now.
overseas. And
Come on,
bring
Joe.
home a product. So I went to South Korea. I convinced
100
Samsung
years
to
ago.
invest billions of dollars here in the United States.
Come on, dude. Come
And
on,
then
Joe.
Guess what? Those fabs they call that to build these chips. Those fabs pay over $100,000. You don't need a college degree for
You're just
them.
talking
And
nonsense
there's
at this point.
billions.
Why does any of this even matter? Who cares about anything that you're saying right now? You're old, but you're like visibly old.
For Americans all over the world.
It's not really the age is not even that big of a
President
deal.
Biden, you
It's
have
just the fact
40
that you
seconds
just
left. Would you like
you're
to add
having a hard
Yeah,
time
look,
conversating.
The idea that somehow we are this failing country. I never heard a president talk like this before. We're the envy of the world.
But didn't he just say that we were a failing country when Trump was president at the time? It's kind of a contradiction.
The United States of America, for all our problems and all our opportunities. We're the most progressive country in the world in getting things done. We're the strongest country in the world.
That's false.
We're a
Our
country in the
Congress
world who
is
keeps our
gridlocked.
word.
We have a hard time
Everybody
getting things
trusts us.
done.
All of our allies.
Where's he getting that information from?
And those who he coddles up to, from Kim Jong-un, who he sends love letters to, and Putin, etc. They don't.
So we're saying Kim Jong-un was sending love letters?
Former President Trump, to follow up, you would be 82 at the end of your second term. What do you say to voters who have concerns about your capabilities to serve?
Well, I took 2 tests, cognitive tests. I aced them, both of them, as you know. We made it public. He took none. I'd like to see him take one, just one, a real easy one. Like go through the first 5 questions. He couldn't do it. But I took 2 cognitive tests. I took physical exams every year.
Oh,
and, you know, we knock on wood wherever we may have wood, that I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way. And I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape. I feel that I'm as in good a shape as I was 25, 30 years ago. Actually, I'm probably a little bit lighter, but I'm in as good a shape as I was years ago. I feel very good. I feel the same. But I was willing to take a cognitive test. And you know what? If I didn't do well,
Joe would not do very well with that.
Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's a great guy when he was White House doctor. And then I took another one, a similar one. And one of them said they've never seen anybody ace him.
Okay, now he's doing
President
nuts.
You can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds.
That's not a good joke. That didn't
Well,
land.
you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, that's it. Anyway, just take a look at what he says he is, and take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him.
Driving
I got
contest?
my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. But by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
Carry your own bag. You have a
It's a
hard
6
time
handicap
walking. You're over here
of all.
challenging somebody to carry a
Eight
bag?
handicap.
Yeah.
8. But I have, you know how many?
I've seen you swing.
Yes,
at
I would love to
Anderson.
see a push-up
Hey, let's-
contest.
Let's
You know,
not act
nobody
like
around-
children.
President
Joe.
Trump, we're going to
21
turn.
Let's not act like children.
We've already passed that
Specific
point, Trump.
concern
We're already acting
that
like
voters
children.
have
We're already
about you.
there, dude.
Will you pledge tonight that once all legal challenges have been exhausted, that you will accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins?
Dude, that's a stupid
And
question. He's going to have to
you will
accept
say
it
right
whether he
now
likes
that
it or not.
political
He did it
violence
last
in any
time.
form
He was
is
like, oh, this is
unacceptable.
rigged. But at the
Well, I
end of the
shouldn't
day,
have to
it
say
is
that,
what it
but of course
is.
I
That's a
believe
dumb
that.
question.
It's totally unacceptable. And if you would see my statements that I made on Twitter at the time, and also my statement that I made in the Rose Garden, you would say it's one of the strongest statements you've ever seen. In addition to the speech I made, in
Such
front
a
of,
dumb
I believe,
question.
the largest crowd I've
What a
ever
waste of
spoken
time. We
to,
could have
and I
actually
will
talked
tell
about
you,
something relevant.
Nobody ever talks about that. They talk about
What's he gonna do? Like
a
shoot the
relatively
person who's
small number of
president?
People that went to the
Maybe, I
Capitol,
don't know.
and in many cases were ushered in by the police. And as Nancy Pelosi said, it was her responsibility, not mine. She said that loud and clear. But the answer is, if the election is fair, free, and I want that more than anybody. And I'll tell you something. I wish he was a great president, because I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be at one of my many places enjoying myself. I wouldn't be under indictment because I wouldn't have been his political opponent, because he indicted me because I was his opponent. I wish he was a great president. I would rather have that. I wouldn't be here. I don't mind being here. But the only reason I'm here is he's so bad as a president that I'm going to make America great again.
Oh,
We're
there
gonna
we go. Make America great again.
We're a
You
failing
fit it in
nation
there.
right now. We're a seriously failing nation. And we're a failing nation because of him. His policies are so bad. His military policies are insane. They're insane. These are wars that will never end with him. He will drive us into World War III, and we're closer to World War III than anybody can imagine. We are very, very close to World War III, and he's driving us there. And Kim Jong-un,
I wouldn't say he's driving
and
us there.
President
That's
Xi
kind of a
of
stretch.
China, Kim Jong-un of North Korea, all of these, Putin, they don't respect him. They don't fear him. They have nothing going with this gentleman, and he's going to drive us into World War III.
You want a World War III, let him follow and win, and let Putin say, do what you want, NATO. Just do what you want. There's a thing called Article 5. An attack on one is attack on all, and required response. The idea.
Attack on
I
one is
can't
attack
think of
on
a
all.
single major
Where was
leader
the
in
other
the
people,
world
though?
who wouldn't trade places with the job I've done and what they've done. Because we are a powerful nation. We have wonderful people. It's because of the people, not me. It's because of the American people. They're capable of anything, and they step up when they're needed. And right now, we're needed. We're needed to protect the world because our own safety is at stake. And again, you want to have a war, just let Putin go ahead and take Kyiv, make sure they move on, see what happens in Poland, Hungary, and other places along that border. Then
Yeah, it's
you have a
conjecture.
war.
President Trump, as I come back to you for a follow-up, the question was, will you accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins?
Just to finish what he said, if I might, Russia, they took a lot of land from Bush. They took a lot of land from Obama and Biden. They took no land, nothing from Trump, nothing. He knew not to do it. He's not going to play games with me. He knew that. I got along with him very well, but he knew not to play games. He took nothing from me. But now he's going to take the whole thing from this man right here. That's a war that should have never started. It would have never started ever with me. And he's going to take
you don't know that.
And, you know, you asked me a question
But, hey,
before, would you do this with...
it's a good comeback.
He's got us in such a bad position right now with Ukraine and Russia because Ukraine's not winning that war.
But again, this is
He said,
another
"I will never
example of
settle
him
until such
not
time."
answering
They're running out of
questions.
people. They're running out
Answer
of
the
soldiers. They've
question.
lost so many people. It's so
It's a bad
sad.
question.
They've lost
I'll give
so
him
many
that.
people.
But still
and they've
answer
lost
it.
those gorgeous cities with the golden domes that are 1,000 years old.
Talking
all
about something
because
that's
of him
completely
and
irrelevant.
stupid decisions. Russia would have never attacked.
We've already talked
Trump,
about this,
the
too.
question was, will you accept the results of the election,
There you go.
regardless of who wins? Yes or no, please.
If it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely. I would
So
have
that
much
means
rather
if there's any
accepted
kind of
these,
foolery, no.
But the fraud and everything else was ridiculous. And if you want, we'll have a news conference on it in a week, or we'll have another one of these in a week. But I will absolutely. There's nothing I'd rather do.
You guys notice there's a lot of sweat underneath Donald Trump's
then
nose.
I'm running again. I wasn't really going to run until I saw the horrible job he did. He's destroying our country. I would be very happy to be someplace else, in a nice location someplace. And again, no indictments, no political opponent stuff, because it's the only way he thinks he can win. But unfortunately, it's driven up my numbers and driven them up to a very high level because the people understand it.
Let's see what your numbers are when this election is over. Let's see.
And I have a
You're
feeling that
whining.
Trump's probably going to
You
win
lost
this
the
election.
first time. You continue.
So, I mean,
to appeal
that was really a
and
bad
appeal
statement
courts
on
all
Joe's
across the
part because
country.
I
Not
have a
one
feeling he's
single court
probably going to
in
go to
America
Trump.
said any of your claims had any merit, state or local, none. But you continue to provoke this lie about somehow there's all this misrepresentation, all this stealing. There is no evidence of that at all.
That's not true.
And I'll
There
tell
actually
you what,
was
I doubt
evidence
you'll
of people
accept it
throwing
because
away
you're such a
ballots.
whiner. The idea if you lose again, you accepting anything, you can't stand the loss. Something snapped in you when you lost the last time.
Yeah, you can take an L.
We'll be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate, live from Georgia.
Hi there. I'm an
All right,
ad.
so what do you guys
Ever
think so
notice how
far? I mean,
some
this
ads
is first of all, I congratulate everybody for being here and stomaching this nonsense. Much appreciated. It's tough for everybody. Fold an onion, finally able to sit down and pay full attention. You didn't miss much, right? Essentially, Trump's still not answering questions. Joe, perfect. This was actually perfect timing. He was asked if he is cognitively ready to do this job again. You know, is he up to snuff? And what came out of his mouth was e ooh e, and then he started talking about stuff that had no relevance to anything. So, no good look on him on that. What else? Rehashing points that were made prior. Yeah, this is tough to watch. This is. That's why I say this is for you guys because you're here, right? You're stomaching this nonsense as you know. I'm stomaching this nonsense. The nation is stomaching this nonsense. And so yeah, the award goes to you guys. This is just. I said it already. It's a hot mess. Trump does look good right now. Well, I wouldn't say he looks good. He looks better than Joe. Again, I don't like him not answering questions. And if you're noticing a pattern here, it's usually the questions that are tough that people will hold you to if you say it, right? Because now there's a recording, and so you said this, the person asked you this, and you said this, and so he's doing a strategic job of not cornering himself into a box and not pissing off his own base, right? Especially that question about do you condemn the folks that stormed the Capitol on January 6th? He didn't answer that question, right? Because he's like, those are my people. I'm not going to say anything bad about them. I'm also not going to say anything good about them either. I'm just not going to say anything at all. Actually, I'm going to talk about something that's completely irrelevant. So, yeah. So this is where we're at. I mean, let me know what you guys think. I mean, has this swayed anybody? If you already were on one side of the fence, I don't know if this makes any difference at all. Like, honestly, if you weren't on any fence, I don't think you've gained any more knowledge from this up to this point. How many more of these are we going to have? I know they're probably going to have more, but I don't know if it's really going to make any difference. I really don't. We still got some time until November. This is probably the most uneventful presidential election I've ever been in. Now, granted, I'm still young, but just basing things off of Barack Obama when he was running for office, the Mitt Romney race, Hillary and hers. People are actually like out in the streets and stuff. I guess he's doing rallies. I guess that's his way of campaigning. He has some limitations though, just because of his whole trial.
To deliver their closing statements as predetermined by a coin toss.
All right, here we go.
We're going to begin.
Let's finish this off, guys. We're almost there. We're almost there.
We've made significant progress from the debacle that was left by President Trump in his last term. We find ourselves in a situation where, number one, we have to make sure that we have a fair tax system.
Okay.
I ask anyone out there in the audience or anyone out watching this debate, do you think the tax system is fair? The fact is that I said nobody even making under $400,000 had a single penny increase in their taxes and will not. And if I'm reelected, that will be the case again. But this guy has increased your taxes because of the deficit. Number one, he's increased
taxes because of the deficit.
He left after the way he handled the pandemic. And he finds himself in a position where he now wants to tax you more by putting a 10% tariff on everything that comes into the United States of America. What I did, for example, he wants to
but we could easily just not buy foreign goods. I mean, the issue here is the reliance on foreign goods.
The ability for us to be able to negotiate drug prices with the big pharma companies. Well, guess what? We got it.
Does that make any sense to y'all?
Excuse me, $35.
Right, when you buy an American item, you're stimulating American economy. If all we're doing is buying cheap Chinese products off of Amazon, we're stimulating China's economy.
That reduced
that's math.
The federal debt by $160 billion over 10
I don't have any
years
issues with tariff on China.
Doesn't have to pay
no issues.
Exorbitant prices. I'm going to make that available to every senior all along. It's happening now, and everybody in America. He wants to get rid of that.
Besides, we also need to get our businesses out of China too, because we're always getting hit with intellectual stealing.
People have for child
because we have all our manufacturing over there. We have too much dependence on China.
Lead pipes and all the things that are causing health problems for people across the country. We're going to continue to fight to bring down inflation and give people a break.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, you now have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Let's go.
Like so many politicians, this man is just a complainer. He said, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to get rid of this tax, that tax. But he doesn't do anything. He doesn't do. All he does is make our country unsafe by allowing millions and millions of people to pour in.
He's harping on that. That's his note, is immigration.
We look like fools in Afghanistan. We didn't stop Israel. It was such a horrible thing that would have never happened. It should have never happened. Iran was broke. Anybody that did business with Iran, including China, they couldn't do business with the United States. They all passed. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah, for terror. No money whatsoever.
Hezbollah's not being funded by
Iran. Ukraine should have never
It's
happened.
a different issue.
He talks about all the stuff, but he didn't do it for 3.5 years.
But also,
we're
that's not
living
really
in hell.
Iran's not the
We
issue
have
here. The issue is
Palestinians, and we have everybody else rioting all over
friction
the place.
between them
you
and
talk about Charlottesville.
the Israel
This is 100
state.
times Charlottesville, 1,000 times. The whole country is exploding because of you.
They're being
because
attacked.
they don't respect you, and they have to respect their president, and they don't respect you throughout the world. What we did was incredible. We rebuilt the military. We got the largest tax cut in history, the largest regulation cut in history. The reason he's got jobs is because I cut the regulations that gave jobs. But he's putting a lot of those regulations back on. All of the things.
Some
that we've
regulation
done,
isn't bad,
nobody's
though.
We've never seen
You
anything.
do
like-
need
even
some
from the medical
regulation,
standpoint,
especially when it
right
comes to
try,
people
where we can
dumping
try
chemicals in our
space-age
environment.
materials instead of going to
You know,
Asia
we're the ones that
or
suffer
going
at the end of
to
that,
Europe
right?
and trying to
That's
get
why
when you're
cancer is so
terminally
prevalent here.
ill.
We act like
Now you
cancer
can
is
go
just
and
a
you
normal
can get
thing.
something.
It's
You
not.
sign a document. They've been trying to get it for 42 years. But you know what we did for the military was incredible. Choice for our soldiers, where our soldiers, instead of waiting for 3 months to see a doctor, can go out and get themselves fixed up and readied up and take care of themselves, and they're living. And that's why I had the highest approval rating in the history of the VA. So all of these things, we're in a failing nation, but it's not going to be failing anymore. We're going to make it great again.
Thank you,
Right.
former
All right.
President
Make
Trump.
America great again. Let's go.
President Biden. Stay with us because we have full analysis of this debate. Anderson Cooper and Aaron Burnett starts now on CNN.
All right, y'all. That does it. We survived. We survived. That was that. Oh man, what a hot mess. Jeez. Are we gonna be okay? Like, as a country, are we gonna be okay? Like, are we gonna make it through this? Mel, you've been watching. What are your thoughts? Am I tripping, or was this a complete waste of time? It is. What did we just watch? What was this? Yes, broken traditions. Well, actually, we get to vote on it. Yes, we congratulations, you guys made it. Congratulations. But yes, this was brutal. This was bad.
It was pretty bad. Congratulations, everyone.
Yeah, we made it.
Barely.
Well, and that's my point. There is like, are we going to survive this? Like, this is one of these guys is going to be our president. One of them.
I'm speechless. I don't know.
Like, what do we do about this? Do we have options?
I mean, these are the options on the table. We have to choose.
Are we gonna have to? Are we all gonna have to vote for broken traditions for president? Is that what we're gonna have to do?
BT for president. Let's go.
All right, you're gonna have to
Are you
take
ready
one
for
for the
that?
team, man.
You do have to do those push-ups, though.
You're gonna have to take one for the team. You're gonna have to do the push-up challenge, and then put your name on the ballot.
I mean, if the other independent candidates weren't so extreme as well, it'd be something else. But
Man, that was a lot, man. That's crazy.
it's a lot of stomach.
It is. That's a lot. I feel really bad for this country right now. We're not doing too well. What?
Did you actually expect them to answer your questions though, thoroughly? Especially the tough questions that you mentioned.
No, it was wishful thinking. I wanted them to answer questions. He said, "Nah, I'm not an American citizen."
Undenounce your citizenship. BT, that's
Yes, the golf conversation was rough too. Man, this is a lot. Like, how do we resolve this? Like, what do we do about this? Like, all right, so we're gonna have to get through these next 4 years. Whoever is the person, right? We're gonna have to get through. We're gonna have to ask ourselves some very important questions, and that's, how did we get to this point where these were the only two options?
We didn't like anyone else in the primaries?
It says they might as well have a fist fight to see who wins.
Oh my god.
That would be interesting. Kind of like a YouTuber boxing match, like the Jake Paul type situation, but with Joe and Trump. That would be interesting. That would be interesting.
We're gonna go for that.
Yeah, I would watch that. That would honestly, that would be a better hour and a half than what we just saw.
I think that would be elder abuse.
How does that be elder? It's two elders. It's not. I'm not doing it. They're doing it to each other.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, it's all right. Yeah, this is kind of concerning. So
Yeah, no, I mean, I wish there was more like policy debate that we could have. Is there anything I really missed that was policy?
You know what was interesting is no one mentioned Project 2025. I thought that was going to be a talking point, at least once, or a question. And so the fact that wasn't brought up at all was very interesting because, the idea floating around is that this is going to be Trump's blueprint. You guys, are you familiar with Project 2025? If you're not, I think it's a book. If you go to the website, it's a bunch of pages that don't really help you getting information on this, but it gives recommendations and of like who to hire, and there's supposed to be an agenda list of policy, but I haven't had the chance to get to it.
I mean, it's 924 pages, so, or maybe more than that. I mean, I don't see how you get through all of it.
Yeah. Broken culture based on rage bait and loss of morals is how we got here. Yeah?
Who said that?
That's Fold Onion.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, entertainment. The need to be entertained because Trump's very entertaining.
He is entertaining.
Joe is a little bit more of a confusing thing because I remember those series of debates. I didn't think he was going to be the one to end up on top, but I think the issue at that time was that they needed somebody who was a little bit more moderate, and everyone was just too left. And Joe at that time was the more moderate of the candidates, and then we end up getting stuck with him. Fortunately, he has not died, so he's made it through his first term.
No, he made it.
He did. He made it through his first term, but
I think he was even looking a little strong tonight, if I can say that.
Relatively speaking, yes. For him, yes.
Correct
now,
me in the chat if I'm wrong. And the chat on Twitter is open as well, or X, excuse me. So all of you guys in there, feel free to put your opinions as well.
But now another 4 years, like the life expectancy of most males in this country is 78, and so they've both already reached max capacity here. Joe looks like he might have a solid 2 in him, which means we're really looking at Kamala Harris. And if we have learned anything from her being vice president, Kamala Harris doesn't go out very often. She doesn't really do much beyond promoting LGBTQ awareness. So,
and now she's taking that campaign off to Africa. So
right,
I don't expect to see her here.
Which I don't know why Africa has been a focus for LGBT endorsement, but because it's not like they're asking for her to come over there and speak on these things, but that's what we have. So
I'm a black woman. You want me?
See, this is where. All right. This is completely unrelated. Completely unrelated.
Unrelated stuff. I'm
but
sorry.
but this does go into. I said this, and then Broken Traditions wrote this in the chat. He is the black woman president.
Oh, absolutely.
So Kamala Harris makes sense. Ketanji Jackson makes sense. Mm-hmm. All the appointees that he's put into different positions in the federal courts and whatnot, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All of that makes sense. Now, are any of these things promoting black family? Well, now we've learned from tonight, based off of the words of Joe, the black family, by definition, according to Joe, is a black woman and some children. So I'm not included in black family. But I'm not a part of black family. I don't really even exist, honestly. And neither do you, Broken Traditions. I know you have a kid. You don't exist in this. So I don't know what we are, right? Anomalies, I guess. They're not aware of our existence, I guess. But Ketanji,
I think they either have severely underrated the vote of black men, or they're just ignoring y'all. Thank you.
Well, see, and this is why I bring this up, because you ignore a whole group of people, and then you turn around and get surprised when black men are navigating to Trump. So it's like it's not a surprise. He actually
and upset.
Yes, really, it's lividness. It's especially a lot of the like Joy Reids and those people of the world. Even the famous podcaster, I forgot her name, but she has a pretty good podcast. She's upset with the amount of black men who are, going on the Trump direction. But it's like, you're not talking to us. You're not talking about our issues. I mean, you always want to shove criminal justice in our face. Like all of us have, are a tiptoe away from going to jail. I don't have a record. I've never been to jail. I know people who have gone? Sure. But is that my whole friend group? No. Am I really that concerned with economy stuff? Is something I'm more concerned with. I mean, slide me a check, or not necessarily slide me a check, but more of, give me opportunities to get a check, right? Get out of my way. Really, that's really what it is. Get out of my way. And, let me do my thing.
Yeah.
Right. Don't put stuff in front of me to have to hurdle over. So, but yeah, they brought up black issues. They brought up black issues.
Oh, I missed that. What was the issue?
So this is kind of where we started talking about the single mom thing, because Joe's answers in particular, right, was talking about how he gave money to colleges, HBCUs, which
yes.
Trump did that too, so that's a wash, right? They both did that.
Well, Trump extended some kind of agreement to where they didn't have to
keep applying.
Or applying.
Oh, so you know what?
That might be a slight difference. I am totally not advocating for Trump here, but that's just factually.
But I think what you're saying, though, might actually be another situation of him taking credit for something that he did not do.
Ooh.
Like, for instance, and if you guys go back into the live stream, he was trying to take credit for the PACT Act, right? The PACT Act is what allows veterans to sue the federal government for things like Agent Orange and for Camp Lejeune contaminated water on the military bases and things like that. That had nothing to do with Joe. That was a whole effort on a bunch of different lawyers around the country trying to advocate for these people and filing personal injury lawsuits, eventually propelling the Congress to pass a bill to allow these things to go through. So, that was a Congress thing. That wasn't really a Joe thing.
Yeah.
But he championed it like he's the one that started this whole thing. It's like that's just not accurate. So sorry.
Because he's hoping that people don't fact check.
Yeah.
Or I don't know. I don't know what he's thinking, but a lot of times they know that sometimes people don't dig in deep enough to find out.
Yeah.
The truth on that.
But thank you for joining us on this. I guess you can call it a journey.
Yeah. Ooh.
Man.
One other thing before we
go ahead.
Head out, though. I mean, how did you guys like the road leading up to it? Who did better at the black church? Remember they both went and visited black churches before?
Oh, geez.
Okay.
I missed that one.
Okay.
But yes, let us know in the comment section. As always,
thank you for joining us with the debate. I'm glad we were able to inspire some people. BT said, something about he wouldn't have watched it if we weren't live.
Yeah, that was kind of cool to hear.
Well, thanks. I'm glad we were able to help you with our civic duties here.
Yeah, we and also let us know if you liked some of the new content we've been pushing out, a lot of the scripted stuff. Oh, of course, man. That's why we're here. I tried my best to give you guys good information. I think that's, behind most of the things that we do. And so definitely if you guys have other suggestions for stuff, we're more than willing to, put the hours in to give you guys that content. The other thing that I have to, is to remind you guys to like, subscribe. Got it.
Oh, we've enjoyed it tonight, guys. Thank you so much.
Yes. We will see y'all next time. We got some interesting things coming up next week. And so we'll probably do some more lives. We'll probably, hopefully, release another scripted piece. Let us know how you feel about Tiffany. Let us know how you feel about Christina. I know those were interesting. And so, yeah, we'll see you guys next week.